Welcome back to the Sooner Pocket Podcast. Sam Knight here with Chris. Make sure to check out our site, www.soonerpocket.com. A lot of good content on there. Chris, how are the cold winds of Chicago this fine evening?
They're cold and they're blowing. Uh, we actually got a nice little bit of snowfall earlier, but it's warm enough to where it didn't really stick. Just kind of made the grass a little bit lighter than normal, and then it stopped. Uh, but it's getting pretty chilly up here. Is Oklahoma dreaming of a white Christmas this year?
No, no, not even dreaming of one. Maybe a white April or white May, but no white Christmas here. I'll tell you, dreams are coming true though down at Owen Field. John Mateer signing all the paperwork, and he is officially an Oklahoma Sooner, transferring from the Washington State Cougars, bringing with him offensive coordinator Ben Arbuckle, and potentially bringing in an offensive lineman from Wazoo who is in the transfer portal. We'll see how that one pans out. Hey, OU has had a good week. Last week was kind of quiet, abnormally quiet almost. Lost some dudes to the portal. Andrell Anthony going to Duke, Nick Anderson to LSU, Bauer Sharp to LSU. Nick Anderson, you're dead to me. And this week, we got Isaiah Satania earlier this evening, wide receiver out of Arkansas. Real solid. Derek Simmons, the 6'6", 325 tackle from Western Carolina. Not a blue blood necessarily, but gonna be all right. Gonna be all right. Then we got Keontez Lewis from Southern Illinois. Mentioned John Mateer, and then yesterday grabbing the Arkansas Pine Bluff star Giovanni Gibson, 6'2", 205. Couple years of eligibility there. So it's been a good week for us. Aside from Mateer, which of the other four guys do you feel is best positioned to make an immediate impact for us next year, assuming they start?
Yeah, I get what you mean. I don't think there is a snowball's chance in hell that Giovanni Gibson does not start for us next year. He, yeah, you'll hear people say, "Oh, well, he's from Arkansas Pine Bluff. He's from the FCS. How good could he be?" Well, think of how many great players have come from the FCS in recent years and from JUCOs, and and I think if I remember correctly, a couple of the top receivers in the SEC were FCS transfers this year. He had over 1,200 yards through the air this year. I think over 70 catches. I mean, he was just a monster, and he just he's a physical receiver. He's tall. He's really athletic. I think when it comes to that offense that Ben Arbuckle likes to run, there is no way that we don't see some very quick action to Giovanni Gibson, especially if he can do for us what he did for Arkansas Pine Bluff. Heck of an athlete. Really excited to see him play. But yeah, things really materialized there quite well. Uh,
Had to
it's
pull
been a
that one
nice
out, didn't
few
you?
it's been a nice few days for OU in the portal, and I'm glad to see how aggressive we've been in the portal. Someone, I can't remember who, but someone mentioned how OU's philosophy has been in the portal this year, and not only do I feel like I've noticed it, but I agree with what they're saying. Brent Venables over the last few years in the portal, he's really gone after guys with potential. It's these guys who have all the potential in the world, but we haven't quite seen them do it yet. And it's these guys who have the ability or they've shown flashes and they think, "Oh, we'll just get them with our coaches and they'll really come out well." And we've been hit and miss with that. Andrell Anthony, when he was on the field, the 6 games that he was on the field for OU, he was great. But after he got hurt against Texas, I mean that was kind of what kept him from playing too much at Michigan. He was hurt all the time. He has all the talent in the world, but he can't stay healthy. So we've stopped going after those guys with potential and start going after production. We're no longer looking to see, well, what can you do? What's the possibility of what you can do? We're going after what are you doing right now? What are you putting on the field at this moment? And guys like Giovanni Gibson are putting so much on the field. Then there's that offensive lineman from Washington State that you mentioned. His name is David Gusta. Uh, he's expected to be a day one or day two draft pick. If he were to just enter the draft this year, which I don't think he can, but if he were to enter the draft this year, he'd be a day two draft pick most likely. And he's now in the portal. Apparently, I saw something earlier. I think it was from On3 saying that he's really being courted by three schools: Alabama, Michigan, and Oklahoma. Which that offensive lineman that we got earlier from Western Carolina, Alabama and Michigan were heavily courting him too. So, so just I really like seeing that we're going after these guys who it's not just that they have the ability, they are already putting themselves in NFL draft conversations. We're just bringing them here and saying, let's amplify that. Let's get you with an elite quarterback and a great offensive coordinator in the best conference in college football and let you showcase what we can do. Then, as much luck as we're having in the transfer portal, you look out west to a certain program who of the
Boo.
of the top, I think it's what, nine of the top 11 recruits that they've nine of their top recruits over the past few years have all entered the transfer portal. And then you've got some five stars decommitting left and right. I like seeing that we're on the side of like we're losing players who we thought would be good, but they haven't really done too much, and we're gaining players who are very highly sought after.
Yeah, it's exciting to see. Um, it's it's just good to see maybe a little bit of a change from last year. Last year, no doubt. Um, to pivot just a little bit, back to Mateer. I read earlier today, maybe late yesterday, earlier today, that Bill Belichick at North Carolina made quite a push for Mateer at the last minute. I can't help but chuckle a little bit sitting here thinking about Belichick and um, his recruiting pitch to high school kids, but also to guys in the transfer portal. For someone like Belichick, this is what I'll say. You know, the transfer portal is probably not as foreign a concept because in a large sense, it's like free agency in the NFL. Um, little less like a trade, more like free agency. Just because the team that you're leaving isn't always going to get anything in return. Um, Textbook case is Washington State. We pillaged their program here, getting their offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, and then getting their quarterback. That's a bad week for Washington State. But thinking about Bill Belichick and what he's got to be saying to recruits, what are recruits saying to him? You think? Because I can imagine the recruits are probably telling him, stay away from my sister. Um, the I don't know. I don't know. Just seems like an interesting dynamic out there on the recruiting trail. He just stands over. He's like, sign the paper, boy.
Yeah, if you want to come play for a coach who's won 6 Super Bowls and come on over, but we're not gonna do all that mansy pansy crap. You're gonna come over here and you're gonna play football and we're gonna get you ready for the NFL. That's my best guess as to what he's saying to these guys.
You're not going to win a national championship. Nobody wins national championships. You're going to win the game of life. You're going to win a Super Bowl. Come here. Don't win. Win later.
Man, that sounds like that you started off sounded like Dabo Swinney there for a minute. We're not here to win championships, man. We're here to win the game of life. And we do that through the holy trinity of football.
And you know what else had a trinity? Our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. No.
They may say I'm
No,
washed.
funny.
You're darn right I am. Washed in the blood of the Lamb.
Oh, freaking Dabo, man. Gotta love him. Gotta love him. Um, Looking up north in your neck of the woods, first playoff game between two teams from the same state is going to happen tomorrow when Notre Dame and Indiana face off. Remind me who's hosting?
Notre Dame. And it's apparently a high of 31 and it's going to be snowing. So we got football weather for the
Well,
playoffs.
that's right. That's right. It's some of that Kansas City at Buffalo in December type weather um, from the NFL. Um, Not much of a weather advantage, I don't think, for either of those teams. If you had, UCLA, USC, Oregon, one of those teams traveling to Notre Dame in that weather
They'd be
tomorrow, that I
screwed.
think would give Notre Dame an advantage. But, Notre Dame and Indiana, they're 200 something miles apart. Weather in one is weather in the other. Um, that one, I've got Indiana pulling off the upset in that one. I think Notre Dame's going to fall out of this early. I think they've got a lot of inconsistencies in their play that were exposed earlier in the season, most notably against Northern Illinois, where they really got dominated for a large portion of that game. Indiana, of course, had some stuff show up against Ohio State, the one real team on their schedule that they played. Um, so, that was a whooping. The question is, which team has shown a pattern of consistency this year? Which team is more likely to learn from the mistakes they made and have the coaching staff to execute that? Who's got the toughness there? That's Indiana. Marcus Freeman, great at Notre Dame. He's a very good coach. Notre Dame's a very good program. They are not a great program right now. They are not on par with Indiana, I don't think, toughness wise. A game like this, you're going to need to be tough. You're going to need to have grit and endurance to finish it out. And I don't see Notre Dame having that. Week loss after week loss after week loss in the Marcus Freeman era so far. Unprepared teams. I don't like Notre Dame in this one. What are your thoughts?
I got the other way around. Uh, when you look at one of their earliest games, in fact, their first game of the year against Texas A&M, they came prepared and they were one tough physical team in that game. They really handled Texas A&M, and Texas A&M they kind of collapsed at the end of the year, but they were looking really good for a minute there. Uh, and Notre Dame, their defense was absolutely rolling this year. There were only two games where they allowed more than 20 points. There was the game against, at the time, number 15 Louisville. And then there was the game against USC to end the season where they allowed 35 points. The game against Louisville, they allowed 24. But there was that game against USC where, yeah, USC isn't great, but you can always count on Lincoln Riley. It seems to have a high scoring offense. And in that game, Notre Dame's offense showed up. They went up against number 24 Navy, beat them 51-14. They went up against number 19 Army, 49-14. They went up against Georgia Tech, who almost hung half a hundred on Georgia. They beat them 31-13. They went up the I know that they lost to Northern Illinois, but the fact is you played that game you play that game 1,000 times. Notre Dame wins 999 of those times. It's just they caught the one matchup where they didn't win. Uh, they handled Virginia well, who was a nice enough team this year. They really found their way at the end of the season. They were scoring at least 30 in every game. In fact, they did score at least 30 points in every game after they beat Miami of Ohio. That was their fourth game of the season. They beat Miami of Ohio 28-3, and then after that, they scored 31, 49, 31, 51, 52, 35, 49, 49. And the points they allowed in that same stretch, 24, 7, 13, 14, 3, 14, 14, 35. They've put together complete team efforts in a lot of these games in ways that we don't normally see from Notre Dame over the past few years. And I think Marcus Freeman, I think he's going to find a way to come prepared for this game. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be another Indiana, Ohio State. Not in the fact that it'll be a blowout, but it's going to be a their Jimmies and Joes are better than your X's and O's.
Maybe so. Maybe so. And I think you're finding a way to work that Jimmy and Joe stuff into every episode we do here. So props
I'm
to you
going
for
to
that.
now.
Across the rest of the playoff slate this weekend, Saturday, December 21st, we've got the great football orgy of 2024 with college ball and NFL ball happening all on the same day. The playoff committee electing to go up against the NFL. I think it's a mistake myself. Got the Chiefs and Texans early Saturday, got the Steelers and Ravens midday Saturday, and the NFL monopolized the scheduling on it. Kept the playoff games off of ESPN networks until the NFL games are over. So we'll see how well these playoff games do on TNT. Be interesting. SMU traveling to Beaver Stadium to take on Penn State, 8.5-point favorite to the Lions, and Clemson traveling to Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium. Texas a 12-point favorite in that one. And then in the evening, Tennessee and Ohio State facing off at the Shoe. Rapid fire picks on these. Penn State's going to beat SMU. Not too much doubt there. Clemson, I think, I don't think this is going to be a 12-point game in either direction. I think Clemson is going to keep it tight, and it's going to come down to the final 5 minutes of the game. Who's got the ball, how well they control it, and can Clemson's defense keep Texas out of the end zone in that fourth quarter. If they can do that, if Clemson holds on down the stretch, Clemson wins this ball game, knocks Texas out early. And Tennessee is going to take this against Ohio State in the Shoe. Ohio State's got the big advantage being there in Columbus. Last game they played was against Michigan. They lost, not good. And I don't think they have as you would put it, I don't think they have the Jimmies and Joes to keep up with Tennessee's X's and O's. So I think you're looking at Penn State, Clemson, and Tennessee. And then to go back to Indiana is my pick there. All four of those teams advancing to the next round. Your thoughts on the three games from Saturday?
Well, like you said, I already got I got Notre Dame winning the Friday one, but the Clemson Texas game, if Clemson's offense can keep up, and if Clemson is the more physical team in that game, Clemson will win that game because anytime Texas has gone up against blue collar teams this year, they have struggled, especially the two games against Georgia. I think Clemson will be able to keep it close for most of the game, but I don't see a way that they can win it unless they're just physically dominant the whole game. So I've got Texas winning that one. Tennessee, they've got one mean defense, but their offense has been very inconsistent this year. I think it's going to come down to, and same for Ohio State. They've got a really good defense, but their offense has been somewhat inconsistent. I think it's going to come down to whoever has the better offense that day. We know that both defenses will look really good. Probably first quarter shutout if I had to guess for both teams. But whatever offense is the first one to score will probably be the last one to score too, and we'll win that game. And I've got SMU pulling the upset. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be a whiteout game at Penn State, and it's in Happy Valley. That's not an easy place to play. But SMU, they're playing some really good football right now. I've got SMU pulling the upset.
All right, Sooner Pocket Podcast. I'm Sam Knight here with Chris. Make sure to check out SoonerPocket.com. A lot of good content there, and give us a follow on the YouTube channel as well. Boomer Sooner. Let's hope for a good playoff weekend. Everybody stay safe.
Boomer Sooner.